You are listening to a live broadcast from Vancouver's downtown east side on CBC British Columbia. We are talking to people about the state of the neighborhood. This is a place in BC where addiction and homelessness and despair are really most concentrated. We're broadcasting live on CBC Radio 1 and on the CBC Listen app across the province, on Facebook, on the CBC Gem app as well. And I'm Stephen Quinn. And the question that we're asking today is, when is enough for you? We're talking about the worsening conditions in the downtown east side.
And they're nervous in their own neighborhood. Guys that have been here for 30, 40 years, nervous in their own neighborhood around,
there's the obvious things around the fentanyl crisis, and seeing people resuscitated around you every day starts to have an effect.
What I see is, I really feel that policies need to start changing. The system is doing exactly what it's designed to. It's here to keep us oppressed. When is enough going to be enough? We need these politicians to really start changing the policies and making changes within the system, because that's the only way we're going to really be able to help each other get out of this deep trench that we're in.
So in 1989, when we closed down Riverview, I predicted at that time, I said, look, we're not ready. And mental patients will come downtown east side and get hooked on drugs by drug dealers. And that's exactly what's happening with the drugs situation. But, in addition to that, there's also homelessness all across, the area. And we need more homes.
I absolutely agree the need for affordable housing is critical. Our community has suffered, frankly, and I would say that this is across the country as well. We'll all remember that back in 1993, the federal government canceled the National Affordable Housing Program. As a result of that, this country lost more than 500,000 units of affordable housing or co-op housing that would otherwise have been built. So imagine what our communities would look like today if we had that housing stock. So that said, So we do have the federal government who's announced a National Affordable Housing Program. The problem of that program, of course, is that the money won't flow. The vast majority of that money won't flow until after this election, and even at that, a significant portion of that money won't actually go to the community until 2024. So it's a long ways, right? And what we need is housing now. And so we do need, I think, all three levels of government working together.
I'll try to remember what it was. I was just wondering how a regulated drug supply will ultimately solve the both spiritual and social reasons that some of us turn to drugs in the first place.
If we can take the morality out of and the judgment out of which drugs are drugs, which drugs are bad, as if they have an inherently evil quality, which is to say we purchase them on the street from unknown sources, and which drugs are good for you, which drugs are medicine, which drugs are sanctioned, which drugs are prescribed, which is to say co-managed. Where this judgment is it's based in race, it's based in class, it's based in colonial extraction. The trench that we're in, it's like that, we've been down so long, it looks like up to me. It's not an income gap, it's a cliff. Drugs, whatever form, are a solution to a problem, just not a very good one. There's always another way that's much more difficult to get at those problems, and those are often individual. But what we're dealing with right now is structural, social, and ultimately political. The first thing that I would say that we need to talk about healing, it's all of us. It's not an individual problem at all.
Christine Boyle, Vancouver City Council.
And I would say, we're throwing our hands up and begging for help all of the time on the safe supply question, which I think, as Karen articulated so well, is a critical question of life and death again and again. We are throwing up our hands. Vancouver, this multi-partisan council has been saying we need safe supply. If we're not getting it from the feds, if we're not getting it from the province, then I think it's something that we need to do as a local government, as a health authority, as residents in the city. As a local government, are responsible for zoning and land use, and we need to use those very powerful tools to make sure. I've heard Karen say before that the downtown east side is experiencing kettling, that people are getting pushed in further and further with nowhere to go. And so we need to create affordable shelter rate housing across the city and not just also protected in this neighborhood and elsewhere. The problem of inequality, I will just finish by saying the problem of inequality is not just about great poverty, but also about great wealth. And so we need to look at both pieces of that spectrum in how we come about solutions.
But maybe we're in this trauma and entrenched in all of this because maybe we're all living in a lie. Like maybe what does reconciliation mean without an action behind it? Maybe we need to bring more indigenous cultures, the longhouse, sweat lodges, a lot more stuff like that. And then maybe when we start living as one in a community, then maybe we can all start healing together. But that's where the real healing is going to come from. We need more than just reconciliation. We need action behind it. And this is what I want to do.
My busking cousin couldn't even remember my name. We aren't family. Get out of my way. Yeah, so much for movements ending the pain. We need action, but our voices just don't have a say. How come the poor can never feel safe? There's always an expectation no one can make. Things just aren't the same. I wish I could go backwards down memory lane. So much stories never heard, yet we have the power to listen. One set of ears could stop me from addiction. One point of view could change my decision. But the boy who cries wolf only hears, "You've got to be kidding." Some of us just want to be left alone. But let's face it, life is hard, and we can't do it on our own. I've been there. A loss of opportunities the city can offer me, forcing me into poverty. Anyone want an escape? Sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do is give us space. Check up on me, or one day I might be another missing name.
Can we embrace a First Nations or low-income wellness strategy to open a granting process for poor or First Nations to get land for housing, federal grants for housing and for collateral, and to get housing into places? So in the citywide, we could rezone areas that are open and give those people give those areas to people that are poor.
And what is required, of course, is the political will. When we talk about reconciliation, it's more than words, and you have to match the actions, right? And the actions has to be real and be on the ground. So in the situation where we're talking about the fentanyl crisis, I can't help but to think back when we had the H1N1 virus, right? The country, we had about, 430 people died from that virus. And the country actually declared a national health emergency. Here we have a fentanyl crisis, and Karen was talking about relationships being broken, people dying each and every day. And it's not just in the downtown east side, it's across this country. Yet we still don't have a national health emergency. Why is that? And on the issue around... But the thing is that we have some of the solutions within our grasp. And all we need is the political will to do it, and we need all three levels of government doing it. Christine Boyle from the city shouldn't be begging to the federal government to actually enact safe supply. This can happen. The health authorities can kick that in and make it happen. We need to stop criminalizing people who are users and clearly and distinctively look at the drug addiction issue as a health issue.
All banging our heads against the wall because of the war on drugs, and as long as we're treating this as a criminal justice issue, and in Canada we talk the right talk, but we really haven't made any progress in that whatsoever. The real benefit to that is allowing people to wake up in the morning and go get their drugs without being on a 24/7 hustle, which causes all the public nuisance that the other gentleman was talking about.
If we have affordable housing in every neighborhood, not just the ghettos, the poor neighborhoods where we're allowing urban decay to look after people, then there's a stronger social network around everyone, instead of kettling everyone in one place.
The drug supply is so contaminated right now. We're literally drowning in poison. Okay, so in order to get out of this situation, we're need to introduce safe supply. It's not, and I want to say, it's not rocket surgery. I'm writing a prescription for, and it's very, we don't need to make it so complicated. We need doctors to be supported by authorities in their health, and then in cities. Doctors can start, clinics can start, people can start and do this. We need to break this whole cycle of doing whatever people need to do to get that $10, that $20, whatever, and going on that all day long indefinitely, losing the sense of time, being trapped out of time and continuing to do that until you drop. And nothing else matters, because there's nothing else, there's no other choices. That's the source of petty crime. It's both the fact that it's because it's not just that the drugs are criminalized, it's that our entire lives are criminalized. And it's the sectioning off from the social contract, or whatever the hell, you're outside of that, and you will forever be outside of that. So safe supply, in fact, increases your safety. It increases everyone's economic security, and it does, in its own sense, decriminalize drugs, because it's co-managed instead of extorted. It decommodifies substances, actually. And by removing the profit motive, that's how we got here in the first place.
First of all, the City of Vancouver, PPD, and the company being accountable for the people that walk over and turn over every day. The realtors need to be held accountable for the housing crisis that's on this. We're doing now because the realtors, it's all on their part. The realtors need to be held accountable.
The real estate agents.
Yeah, the real estate agents, because all the cards are in their deck, right? And opiates, they can get the Portland Enabling Society, all those other societies. They're enabling people instead of helping them give them tools so they can help themselves stay busy. Like teach them how to stop using, and they can stop enabling them to we're people, we're not job security. Stabbed, I've been shot with a BB gun 18 times. The VPD knows about these incidents, and they will not do nothing about it because I'm native on native territory.
And I think we've gotten to a place that there is a bit of enablement. We talked about the 4 pillars approach at the very beginning in 2000 when people were getting Hep C, HIV, etc. And we talked about the Vancouver Agreement and 4 pillars. And when we've gotten to a place where harm reduction turns into and I'm all for harm reduction, don't get me wrong, and when I say this, but when we've gotten to the point that it is a-okay for everybody to be shooting up, using, etc., pretty much on every street within Gastown, Chinatown, downtown East Side, that this is okay, we've turned it into a little bit of harm enablement, where it is a point, and we have to have more balance to the system right now, I feel like we've gotten to a place where this harm enablement has, if we can sit there and watch people get to a place where they're vulnerable already, they've dealt with, as someone said, there's PTSD in this neighborhood like crazy, I would almost include myself in there, is that if we're not being a part of the solution and jumping in and helping, that we're all culpable in this, and we are enabling a really bad situation.
I wanted to say harm reduction is not enabling, harm reduction and safe supply are saving lives. I wanted to talk about solutions. I'm not surprised that we have a terrible situation in downtown East Side. I was here 40 years ago, we hardly had any homelessness. Robin is absolutely right, it's caused by policies. We've had 40 years of policies that have cut back welfare, 40 years of policies that have cut back on social housing, and 40 years of a war on drug users, not on drugs. And we need, and I'm thankful to the CBC for doing this, I'm hoping that this will basically kick the butt of senior governments so that we can get safe supply.
They're human beings. They're human beings, and they need their voices heard. They need hope. They need for you to live